Okay. Hi, my name is Miranda Marsden, and I'm going to talk today about mesolevel intervention. Okay. So, first of all, my why. As we were studying the social structures in the book, in the reading, thinking about the different levels, the meso level stood out to me because I feel like it's such a crucial part. Not that they aren't all important, but it's so crucial to have that middleman because it can be really difficult to bridge the gap. Going from an individual level up to a higher, like, government, global, macro level is extremely difficult. And so I think having people there to support and to understand the needs of the people and kind of translate that is such an important role and responsibility. Um, so, first, with my news article, this news article was about a community college. And unfortunately, similar to a lot of other community colleges, it was suffering lack of enrollment and budget cuts. With the pandemic, we've seen that. And also, community college just hasn't been a popular choice as of late. But the community recognized this need and stepped up. So originally, there was a couple who donated a very generous donation, and the community college was just blown away. But after they made that donation, it inspired other people in the community to chip in as well. And so, local donors, the quote says, local donors helped raise more than $4.25 million to build the Clausen Center for Innovation and Skilled Trades, a unique feat for a community college. So it was someone who saw the need. It was the community who chipped in and worked to benefit other members of the community. And education is in this mezzo zone on this level, where it is in the in between. And, we weren't seeing a higher level contributing, and an individual couldn't work to make the same change that the community stepped up and did. And what the point that they're trying to say is that people can be successful without a 4-year degree, and they can go on and do great things. And so it's a really huge blessing to the community to have this community college, and the fact that people were able to rally together was really inspiring. um, as far as the sociological article goes, I read about the progress and importance of community participation. So, more on this meso level of talking about the community, and it tracked the history of when we started to see this and how it's progressed. Um, and one quote from it that I thought was especially interesting. So, Lorraine Gutierrez, she wrote this article. And she said, if community practitioners ignore this opportunity for building broad based community participation, they leave these decisions in the hands of those who do not have the best interests of the community in mind. And that kind of hit home of the importance of having someone there in the middle zone who understands, right? Because it's really hard for an individual to make change on a grand scale. It's doable, but it's clearly more difficult. And if we're looking on like the macro level, policymakers and government officials, if they don't know what's going on in these communities, they very well could make some choices and some decisions that could even be detrimental. And so, who, like this quote says, who do not have the best interests of the community. And so that's why they were kind of in this article saying, hey, there's a need for community interaction on this meso level, um, so that we can make sure that the needs of the individual gets translated all the way up to the top. Um, the NASW, one of the codes talks about the importance of human relationships. And I saw this as best relating to this situation, because one of the things that NASW says is social workers understand that relationships between and among people are an important vehicle for change. And I like this idea of having these relationships being that spark, that incentive for the change to actually happen. Um, and we see relationships and interactions on every level, but I think it's cool to think about how we can influence our community and how our community can influence us. And by getting out there and by making friends and um, working together with these community programs, we can strengthen and or we can create and strengthen these relationships that can make a difference, not just for the individual and not just for the macro level, the whole global perspective, but seeing that be enclosed by this middle level is really cool. And I think that really plays off of these relationships that we build. So the comparison, I thought it was interesting. So this worldly article, right, talking about that community college, they probably didn't really think of it as, or in the social worker's perspective, right? They just thought, wow, look at that community working together to make a change and make a difference, right? But the sociological article is saying the exact same thing. Um, and so I just think it's interesting that across the board, it's this recognized need. We need to have groups, we need to have people in the middle standing up for us. Um, and on both ends, we saw this level of organization where you take something that could be chaotic and organize it so that it's prepared and that it's um, better implemented throughout the community and the society. Um, and so I really think that that is the importance of that meso level intervention, just to bring the community together. And the other thing, like the quote that came from the article about the power, well, not the power, but making policy changes um, that don't have the people's best interest, is when we take it to a meso level and we have people, intervening, we distribute more of the power into the hands of the people. So, when somebody feels like they don't have a shot, but if they get together with some people and then that's when they start, I'm just thinking of like when, for example, petition, if you start to gather things together, one signature doesn't make a huge impact, but if you gather your community together, then policymakers can see, wow, this is actually a big deal. um, this is something that people really care about. And it just brings that power into the hands of the people. So I don't think there's a huge difference between the world's view and the social work perspective. I think both parties recognize it as a good and even a necessary thing in the world, is to build these human connections and have those relationships. And so finally, my question is, what do you believe would be society's main challenge of without the help of organized groups on a meso level? So if we didn't have that intervention, what would be the biggest hurdle between the communication between a micro level and a macro level environment? And what do you think we would see being that main challenge? And there's my references. Thanks.